The first time Captain Daniel Cross heard the name Ghost Talon, he laughed. It wasn't a nervous laugh or a polite one. It was sharp, dismissive, the kind of laugh a man gives when he's convinced someone is trying to sell him a myth wrapped in military jargon. They were in the briefing room at Camp Pendleton, the air smelling of stale coffee and burnt electronics, when a junior intelligence officer mentioned the name like it was supposed to mean something. Ghost Talon, Cross repeated, leaning back in his chair. That's not a call sign. That's a comic book character. A few Marines around the table shifted uncomfortably. No one laughed with him. The intel officer swallowed. Sir, with respect, that's what they call him. They? Cross snapped. Joint Task Force assets. Special Operations Command. Even some CIA field teams. That made Cross sit forward. He hated that. For 12 years, Captain Daniel Cross had built his reputation on one thing: exposure. He was the man who found holes in stories, who questioned after-action reports, who challenged legends. While others worshipped medals and whispered about classified heroes, Cross believed most of it was exaggeration, bureaucratic smoke meant to hide incompetence or illegal operations. And now they were telling him there was a man, no rank listed, no confirmed unit, no public records, who appeared in mission logs across 3 continents and vanished just as cleanly every time. Ghost Talon. Cross tapped his pen against the table. You're telling me there's an operator running missions without a paper trail? Yes, sir. That's illegal. Sir, he doesn't exist. Cross smiled thinly. Then I'll expose him. That was the moment he decided Ghost Talon wasn't a hero, that he was a problem. And Captain Cross had made a career out of destroying problems. 3 weeks later, Cross was standing on the tarmac at a joint operations airfield in Djibouti, heat shimmering above the concrete. His dress sleeves rolled precisely once. He had pulled strings, a lot of them, to be here. Officially, he was conducting a compliance review of Joint Special Operations deployments. Unofficially, he was hunting a ghost. Everywhere Cross went, the same pattern followed. A mission gone sideways suddenly stabilized. An ambush neutralized before it fully formed. Hostages recovered without casualties when odds said at least half should have died. And always, in the margins of classified reports, one phrase appeared: unidentified Allied asset engaged. No name. No rank. No photos. Just results. That irritated Cross more than failure ever could. Because failure could be explained. Perfection couldn't. Inside the operations center, Cross watched drone footage from a mission in the Sahel. A special forces team had been pinned down by militia fighters. Then, something happened. The feed glitched for exactly 4 seconds. When it came back, the enemy positions were silent. Cross leaned closer. Replay that. The technician hesitated. Sir, that's the only feed we have. What happened during the blackout? The technician looked at him carefully. That's when Ghost Talon intervened. Cross's jaw tightened. Convenient. Sir, he saved 12 lives. Cross turned away. Or someone edited the footage. The room went quiet. That was when Cross realized something else, that in one in that room feared Ghost Talon. They respected him. And that bothered Cross deeply. He started digging harder. Cross requested personnel manifests. Redacted. He requested biometric logs. Classified beyond his clearance. He requested weapons deployment records. Denied. That was when suspicion turned into obsession. There was only one explanation left. Ghost Talon wasn't just a soldier, he was a liability being protected at the highest levels, and Captain Daniel Cross was going to drag him into the light. The breakthrough came from an unexpected place, that a Marine gunnery sergeant named Elias Moreno. Moreno had been wounded in Afghanistan 5 years earlier. Cross found his name buried in a casualty report tied to a mission that officially never occurred. Cross requested a private interview. Moreno walked into the room with a limp and eyes that had seen too much. You were there, Cross said without preamble. The night Ghost Talon saved your platoon. Moreno didn't answer. You saw him, Cross pressed. Who is he? Moreno exhaled slowly. Captain, some things aren't meant to be exposed. That's not your decision, Cross snapped. Moreno looked up, his gaze steady and unafraid. With respect, sir, it is. Cross leaned in. You're protecting him. Moreno shook his head. No, I'm protecting you. That was the first crack in Cross's confidence. Explain. Moreno's voice dropped. Ghost Talon doesn't just fight wars. He ends them before they start. Cross scoffed. That's not how war works. Moreno stood slowly, pain evident in every movement. Sir, I watched him walk alone into a compound we couldn't breach with 40 men. I heard gunfire for exactly 90 seconds. Then it was over. How many hostiles? 32. And him? Moreno swallowed. Not a scratch. Cross felt a chill creep up his spine. Was he human? Cross asked before he could stop himself. Moreno met his eyes. Yes, sir. That's the terrifying part. From that moment, Cross didn't sleep that he reviewed every Ghost Talon-linked mission again, this time not as an investigator, but as a predator looking for a mistake. Everyone made mistakes, even legends. And finally, he found one done a mission in Eastern Europe. 5 years ago, civilian surveillance footage had accidentally captured a figure moving across a rooftop. Too fast, too fluid, almost unreal. Cross slowed the video frame by frame. Their a face, blurry, partial, but human. Cross's heart pounded. I got you, he whispered. He compiled everything into a report: footage, timelines, witness testimony, operational anomalies, and he sent up the chain. The subject line read, Unauthorized operator, code name Ghost Talon. Within hours, Cross was summoned to Washington. That should have thrilled him. Instead, it terrified him. The room he was led into was not a courtroom, but IT was not an office. IT was a chamber, flagless, windowless. Silent. 5 individuals sat at the table, and nameplates, and insignia. One of them spoke. Captain Daniel Cross, you have attempted to expose an asset that has protected this nation for over 2 decades. Cross stood tall. Sir, with respect, no one is above oversight. The man nodded slowly. You're right. Relief washed over Cross. Then the man continued. That is why you are here. Not to expose Ghost Talon. A pause, but to meet him. The door behind Cross opened. Footsteps echoed. Slow, controlled, deliberate. Cross turned and froze. Because the man who entered wasn't what he expected. Scars. Cybernetic gear. Shadowy assassin. Just a calm, steady-eyed Marine wearing no rank. Only a simple patch on his shoulder to Talon, and the words beneath it. Her brave Esteres Ghost Talon looked directly at Captain Daniel Cross and spoke. Captain, you wanted the truth. The room held its breath, and now, Ghost Talon said quietly, you're about to learn what exposing it really costs. In a Part 1 fire, this story continues in Part 2, with a full truth of Ghost Talon's identity, past, and the devastating choice Captain Cross must face will be revealed. Pushpin, if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to the channel Her Brave Stripes for powerful military stories like this. Speech Balloon, tell us in the comments. Where are you watching from? The room felt smaller once Ghost Talon stepped inside. Captain Daniel Cross had stood in front of firing squads, hostile tribunals, and battlefield chaos without flinching. But now his mouth was dry, his heartbeat loud in his ears. The man in front of him didn't radiate intimidation the way elite operators often did. There was no aggressive posture, no visible weapon, no air of menace that somehow made it worse. Ghost Talon stood perfectly still, hands relaxed at his sides, eyes sharp but calm. Not cold, focused, the kind of focus that didn't need to prove itself. Cross cleared his throat. You're not what I expected. Ghost Talon gave a faint nod. Most people say that. One of the officials gestured for Cross to sit. Captain, this is the asset you attempted to expose. You will listen. Ghost Talon took the seat across from Cross, up close. Cross noticed details he hadn't expected. Small scars along the knuckles. Faint lines at the corners of the eyes. Someone who had smiled once, maybe long ago. He looked like a Marine. Not a myth. Cross straightened. With respect, sir, I uncovered multiple violations. You uncovered fragments. Ghost Talon interrupted gently. Pieces without context. Cross bristled. Context doesn't excuse operating outside the chain of command. Ghost Talon met his gaze. It does when the chain is broken. Silence followed. One of the officials finally spoke. Ghost Talon was created after a failure. Cross frowned. Failure? The official nodded. 23 years ago, a mission leaked. Entire units were compromised. Allies died because someone talked. Ghost Talon's eyes flickered. Not pain, but memory. That leak, the official continued, came from within our own system. Oversight failed. Accountability failed. Cross shifted uncomfortably. Ghost Talon spoke quietly. I was there. Cross looked at him sharply. As what? A soldier? As bait. The word landed hard. Ghost Talon continued, voice steady. They needed someone to move outside the system. Someone whose existence could be denied if necessary. Cross leaned forward. So you became what? An assassin. Ghost Talon shook his head. A correction. Cross tried to regain control. Even if that's true, secrecy at this level invites abuse. You think I don't know that? Ghost Talon asked. For the first time, emotion cracked through his calm. Every mission I take is weighed against the lives it might save. Not medals. Not recognition. Cross hesitated. How many lives? Ghost Talon didn't answer immediately. Enough that if I stop, he said finally, others will die to prove a point. The official slid a tablet across the table. Open it. Cross did, his face drained of color. Names. Dates. Locations. Operations he'd reviewed, criticized, nearly dismantled, and casualty counts that didn't happen. Those missions, the official said, were projected failures. Ghost Talon leaned forward. You called one of them exaggerated. Cross swallowed. That night, Ghost Talon continued. There were 37 civilians in that compound. Cross's voice was hoarse. The report said 0. Because there were 0 after, Ghost Talon replied. They lived. Cross felt his certainty crumble, that he stood abruptly. Then why hide? Why not testify? Why not? Because the moment I become public, Ghost Talon said, politics replaces precision. Cross stopped pacing. You would put me on a podium. Someone else would put a price on my head. And the people I protect would become targets. Cross clenched his fists. You're asking me to ignore my duty. No, most Talon deeply. I'm asking you to understand it. The officials rose. This meeting is over, one said. Captain Cross, you will submit a revised report. Cross stared at Ghost Talon. If I refuse? Ghost Talon's voice was calm. Then you'll succeed in exposing me. And you'll attend more funerals than briefings. That wasn't a threat, that IT was a fact. Later that night, Cross sat alone in his quarters. The tablet lay dark on the desk. Everything he believed about transparency, accountability, and justice warred with what he had seen. He had wanted to expose a lie. Instead, he'd uncovered a burden that a knock sounded. Ghost Talon stepped inside. No guards? Cross asked. Ghost Talon shrugged. Didn't need them. Cross let out a bitter laugh. Figures. Silence stretched. Finally, Cross asked, do you ever regret it? Ghost Talon considered. Every day. Then why keep going? Ghost Talon looked out the window. Because quitting doesn't stop the war. It just shifts the cost to someone else. Cross nodded slowly. I built my career tearing down legends, Cross said. Turns out, some are load-bearing. Ghost Talon almost smiled. The next morning, Captain Daniel Cross submitted his revised report. IT cited procedural misunderstandings. Insufficient evidence. No actionable violations. Ghost Talon vanished again. Officially. Unofficially, Cross began noticing something. Every time a crisis quietly ended before headlines formed, every time casualties were mysteriously low, every time a war didn't escalate, he knew. Years later, Cross stood before a new class of Marines. He paused mid-lecture and said something he'd never planned to say. Not all heroes wear rank. Some wear silence. He never spoke the name Ghost Talon again, but he never tried to expose him either. If you're listening to this story on YouTube, subscribe to the channel Her Brave Stripes for more powerful, emotional military stories that honor unseen courage. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Because some heroes don't ask to be remembered, they ask to be trusted.